Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Red Doctor Projections. My name is Lucas, and I have Eric here as always.
Hey guys.
And today we'll be looking at Trump's approval rating according to three different sources. Obviously, it's going to be this basically the same rating from each pollster and source, but they're looking at them in a different way. So, with that being said, let's get right into it. So the first poll we have here is 538's poll. This is a pretty basic poll we have here. Again, nothing unexpected here. The reason why we see, Trump's disapproval rating jut up and his approval rating pretty much plummet is as a result of two things. First, the coronavirus handling, which Americans think he poorly handled, as well as the Black Lives Matter movement, and people do not think that he handled that well either. And I think I'm not going to start from the beginning because the last pollster, last source has a good explanation of this stuff. But essentially, if you see here, the reason why it's going down, his disapproval, and why his approval rating is going up actually is because of initially when the coronavirus started happening, Americans kind of approved of what he was doing and stuff. As you can see, March 28th. But then as time moved on, it completely crashed. It rebounded a tiny bit, but it went down again. I'm actually kind of surprised that it didn't go up a little bit after now because of the rebounding of the economy, but obviously the economy is in a bad state right now. So this does kind of make sense here. Eric, do you need anything?
It's just that there's a pattern here. As Lucas said, Trump did gain popularity. We looked at this graph with George Bush's presidency, and his approval rating spiked after 9/11. Oh, it's right here. You can see that huge spike from 50 to 80 in a matter of, doesn't seem that much time. So, but then of course it does go down bit by bit afterwards because for any politicians it's difficult to maintain that popularity. So back to Donald Trump, anyone, despite who's in office, does get more approval, times of crisis, but with different events going on and how people think he handled those events, the general public gradually started disapproving on him. His kind of golden age, according to the people, started to deteriorate quite quickly.
Right. It's kind of like George W. Bush is kind of like, what's the word? Right. He's currently, historians currently rank him as being one of the worst presidents. He's usually ranked near the bottom, which is interesting because you look at how high he was up here. And the same can be said about George H.W. Bush, who went all the way up to about the 80s following the Desert Storm victory. But obviously that fell down as well. It's also interesting to see how steady Trump's approval rating is. Trump and Obama both had pretty stable and steady approval ratings. As you can see, not much change here. If you go someone like George W. Bush, we see a lot more, kind of shaky with all the events happening. Clinton, it's more steady, but we still see a lot of stuff. Carter, yeah, it dipped down pretty bad. Let's look at the 8 years and compare this one to the complete picture. So yes, Bill Clinton did go up and down a bit, but for the most part, yeah, Trump's is a lot more steady. George Bush had a huge downward trend, but yeah, he relatively downward. Obama, yes, this was relatively steady. I think compared to Trump, this is pretty steady as well. HW obviously did not get reelected. Reagan, this was actually quite interesting here. This was pretty fluctuating. But yes, Trump's approval rating is very interesting. As that it's this steady. Could that be a sign that it could be this steady at election day as well? Possibly. I think that's enough to say for this map. This pollster. We're going to now head to this one. This one is from the source called Morning Consult. Now, they haven't updated this map in a while. As you can see, they're saying that February 20th was new. This is when the coronavirus was just starting here. But, yeah, sorry, I mean February 2020, not February 20th. But as you can see, the last update was in February 2020. This was when the virus was just starting. So I think it'll be interesting to take a look at. I actually do want to go back to the beginning first, actually. In the beginning, pretty much every state is green. California is always going to be red for Republican president. Same for Massachusetts. I mean, that's expected. But as we move through time, slowly all these states, most of them, end up becoming red. The state of California is 28. It doesn't really matter there, but state like Massachusetts, -31. Vermont, 33. But of course, we need to pay attention at the swing states here. In the state of Minnesota, -11. This one we do think will go to Joe Biden. That's pretty much no surprise here. Wisconsin, we think it's going to be closer, but that's interesting because this is 11 points equal. Oh, this is the wrong map. Okay, 2020. But still, wow, he actually improved. Well, I think this was the peak of his approval rating, but he has actually improved since that time period. 5 points in Minnesota. Currently, we project that I think it will be lower now as a result of the net approval will be, this is hard to explain, but the disapproval will be higher if it was done today due to the George Floyd protest that did happen in Minnesota. So obviously this is a little bit outdated. -5, again. This is interesting to see that at this moment in time, he's actually not doing that bad in Minnesota, approval rating wise, about equal to Virginia. That's interesting to see. But Minnesota, nevertheless, I do think will still go to Joe Biden. Obviously, a -5 isn't good, but relative to the rest of the states here. Wisconsin, we do think will be closer than a state like Minnesota. We put this one as tilt D, I remember. 10 points disapproval. That might have a big factor here. Eric, you want to touch on Michigan?
Yes. So Michigan, as Lucas said, I think has an approval rating of -10. So it's essentially a disapproval. If this map were to be extended to March and April, where very major events would be happening, like protests and handling of coronavirus and the clashes with Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Donald Trump, I think this would go down. It wouldn't be good for Donald Trump's recognition in the state or popularity in general. So that might affect that election because this whole blue wall area is very up for grabs and it's very desired. But we still have quite a few months to go till the next election. And just like I said, takes 2 months to completely change the whole political map, almost.
Mm-hmm. Right. I do want to point out something interesting. Pennsylvania is only a -1 at this time, and Arizona actually was approving of the president. Obviously, I do think things have changed as a result of, one, the coronavirus handling, 2, the Black Lives Matter movement. And these numbers, I think he is more disapproved in these states by now. So yeah, this is really interesting to take a look at. And I hope they come out with a new one soon because this is really outdated. All right, now let's head to the final graph we have. This is probably the most interesting one. It has outlined every major event that has occurred and the effect of it on Trump's approval rating. Yeah, Eric, how about you cover it from, let's see, impeachment hearings to now?
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's start with impeachment hearings. Actually, in general, Donald Trump's approval rating, as we said from the first map, has been very stable. I'm not going to go through all of these events, but yes, there have been ups and downs. At first, it's been a lot of up, but then from there, it's been fairly stable with very few minor humps. Now, this has carried on to the end of his first term. Impeachment hearings, it stayed the same almost. Once again, it's kind of it's actually less bumpy than things that you saw previously. I'm looking at 2018 government shutdown and border national emergency. It was more shaky there than the impeachment hearings. Moving on to the Senate acquitting Trump, his popularity actually blipped up a bit. And even at first, during the coronavirus national emergency, it did go up. But as we said, taking a larger look into that from the first map, it did go down quite a bit. He did not maintain his approval rating. So the disapproval rating, it's been quite constant. And even in the Senate coronavirus hearing, it's been like it actually went up because of just general bipartisanship towards a leader who is trying to deal with this crisis. I, he has somehow managed to be very constant. The majority does disapprove, but it hasn't gotten better or worse. It's just neutral.
Right, and this might actually carry into election day. This approval might, kind of impact him in the 2020 election. Obviously, right now we are seeing a dip for President Trump, with the reason being the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as his coronavirus handling. Again, these two factors intertwined together has caused his approval rating to dip. If we look at previous elections, he's performing about as well as, George H.W. Bush approval rating at this time, and someone like Gerald Ford's approval rating at this time. That might not exactly be a good sign for him, because those presidents were not reelected. But of course, we can't solely rely on this approval rating, but it definitely is a factor, and I'm not sure if it's looking too great for the president right now. Well, during this time period, I do think that it will be definitely be low as a result of the Black Lives Matter movement. Will it go up? I'm not sure. My prediction is, if the economy is able to rebound before November, I do think his approval rating will go up, and there will be more jobs. If not, and the recession does continue, I do think this will have a huge effect on the 2020 presidential election. With that being said, that is the end of this video. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you like our content, please hit subscribe. We'll see you in our next episode tomorrow.
See ya.